The AFP, through Operation Guardian, arrested and charged a Sydney man this morning, allegedly trying to use stolen Optus data to blackmail customers. Operation Guardian launched an investigation last week when Optus customers received a text message demanding the transfer of $2,000 to a bank account or face their personal information being used for financial crime. The alleged offender, who is 19 years of age, accessed the 10,200 Optus stolen records posted online last month. The accused targeted 93 customers using those records. Fortunately, no customers paid the amount of this ransom demanded. The man has been charged with telecommunications, using a telecommunications network with the intent to commit a serious offence. The serious offence is blackmail, and that offence is punishable with a maximum penalty of imprisonment of 10 years. And dealing with identification information contrary to the New South Wales Crimes Act, the penalty is imprisonment for 7 years. These are serious charges, and the offender is now facing up to 10 years imprisonment. Last week, the AFP and our state and territory partners launched Operation Guardian to protect the most vulnerable customers affected by the Optus breach. We made it absolutely clear that there would be no tolerance for the criminal use of this stolen data. I want to be very clear, and there are two messages that I would like to convey today. The AFP-led JPC3 has diverted significant resources to protect customers at risk from identity fraud. We understand how worried some members of the community are. And I want to give the community reassurance that the AFP and our partners are working around the clock to help protect your personal information. Secondly, the warning is clear. Do not test the capability or dedication of law enforcement. The AFP, our state and territory partners and our industry partners are relentlessly scouring forums and other online sites for criminal activity linked to this breach. Just because there has been one arrest does not mean that there won't be any more arrests. Finally, Operation Hurricane, the AFP investigation into the alleged offender responsible for the breach, is continuing, and we are aggressively pursuing all lines of inquiry to identify those behind the attack. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions.
Can you just talk us through the nature of the scam? It doesn't sound too sophisticated.
So the nature of the scam is that the alleged offender obtained some customer records that were released online amongst the 10,200 records. The alleged offender then texted the 93 customers and a demand was made to pay $2,000 into a bank account, or otherwise their identity details would be utilised for other criminal purposes. And we would allege that the offender was working their way through the list, and fortunately members of the community were not impacted financially from the scam. However, we would suggest that he was prevented from committing future harm to members of the community.
Over what period were these text messages sent?
So the text messages started to be sent last week, and we would allege would have continued had we not taken the action that we took today.
How did we get access to this data? Has it just been released online and it's quite easy to find, is my understanding?
So unfortunately, when the data is released online, it is accessible online. That's why we continue to, with our partners, scour criminal online forums and attempt to identify others who are attempting to gain access to this material to commit identity fraud and fraud-related offences against members of the community.
And how was this man, or did members of the community that got this text message come forward?
So we, the AFP and Operation Guardian responded to this by working with our industry partners. We also receive information from members of the public, and a combination of those activities led to the activity that took place today.
And can I just clarify as well, is this the first person that's been charged with using this information as a potential
This is the first person who has been arrested under Operation Guardian, utilising the material from the Optus data breach, and we don't expect that it will be the last.
So are you actively investigating other complaints?
We are actively investigating a range of activities under Operation Guardian, and as I mentioned, we continue to look at online forums to determine whether other criminals are seeking to exploit the Optus data breach material to target other Australians.
How concerned are you that this is just going to keep happening?
Well, we have a range of agencies involved in this activity. We work, the AFP, through the Joint Policing Cybercrime Coordination Centre, works with its state and territory partners and industry partners. And of course, we're very worried about it, which is why we've put the protections in place. We are doing whatever we can, working around the clock to protect Australians whose details have been released. And to provide those protective mechanisms so that we take the decisive actions that we took today.
And what is your advice to those Optus customers that have their data leaked?
So we continue to speak about some very public messages. There's a range of measures that we would give to people who are potentially impacted. So the first is be really conscious about suspicious and unexpected messages and activities across online platforms such as banks, telco, data utilities, etc. We would urge customers not to click on links in SMS or emails claiming to be from Optus. Be really mindful if customers get telephone calls from banks, from police and other organisations with offers to help with the data breach. Consider hanging up immediately. Never click on links that look suspicious, never provide passwords, never provide banks one-time PINs or any personal or financial information. And finally, we would urge that if people posing as a credible organisation and request access to members of the community's computer, always say no to that. We would also urge if members of the public are a victim of cybercrime to report cyber.
Do we have any idea how many people have access to this data?
That continues to be the subject of the investigation that we're conducting under Operation Guardian, and in relation to the original breach investigation, Operation Hurricane, that continues as well, and there's a number of resources that we have diverted to progress both of those investigations.
But it sounds like it's just a Google search away. The data itself.
Look, the data is available, which is why we continue to devote and commit the resources that we are committing to look at online forums, to see where there's other potential sources where access has been gained to this data, and this data is potentially designed by criminals to be used for criminal purposes.
And this 19-year-old, do you believe he acted alone, or is there other people you're looking into as part of the investigation?
At this stage, we've only made the one arrest in relation to the 19-year-old. The circumstances of his offending continues to be under the investigation as we're progressing the investigation.
But we're not ruling out other arrests to do with this particular case?
Look, we can. In any investigation, we look at a wide variety of avenues of inquiry, and we're continuing to examine the circumstances of this particular case. In relation to this particular conduct, we're not ruling out further arrests to take place because we have committed our resources to ensure that we're protecting Australians.
Is there anything else you want to ask?
Question.
No, that was...
No, there's nothing else. Thank you. Thank you.